Oh yeah. Hey yo, it's the Russo Show. Hey yo, it's the Russo Show.
We would love to introduce our guest for this week. This is RJ Cutler.
What's a typical scenario about how you plan a shoot week? What's the process you go through to identify when you're going to be present, what you're going to be present for, etc.?
Instinct. So you got to begin. So where are we going to begin? With Billie, our earliest shoots. She was touring Europe, and we knew we'd spend 3-4 days with her. We filmed in London. We filmed in Spain. I'm trying to think. We filmed in London. We filmed in England and Spain. You're feeling your way through it. It's really instinctual. You look certainly for high stakes events. You want the subject to be doing something that matters more than the fact that you're filming them. And certainly being on tour matters more than the fact that we're filming Billie. But there were other things going on in her life, and we did our best to capture them. We wanted to spend a certain amount of time at home in the house. You're really just filling in it's following the puck again. It's figuring out the shape of it. Sometimes when you're not filming matters, you want to take a break every once in a while. You want Billie and her family to miss you. Better that they miss you than that they don't miss you. I'm always telling the crew, let's stop shooting 10 minutes before they ask us at the end of a day. Everybody knows when they're getting tired. Everybody feels it in their legs. Everybody knows when you've been together for a lot of hours. Maybe you could film another 45 minutes, but if you leave at the 45-minute mark, everybody's like, wow, they didn't wear us out. They left. Bye. See ya. They gave us our lives back. It's so they're so grateful. That's what you want. You want people to be happy to see you the next time they see you. So there's a lot of dynamic building and instinct, and it's all feels very, once you kind of embrace the principles of it, it all feels very natural. It all makes sense. Of course you'd leave your hosts 45 minutes before they ask you to leave. You don't go to a dinner party and wait until everybody's yawning before you leave. You know a natural time to get out of there. So look, and then there's sometimes when the stakes are high and the days are going to be long, and you've banked that trust so that if you do need to stick around, if you do need to be with each other over lengthy periods of times, many days in a row, everybody understands what you're doing there. And your goal really is to reach the point towards the end of the shoot, about 75-80% of the way through the shoot, where the subject's like, holy shit, you really did it. You've really been here for a year, and for a year you've been thoughtful about you've left 10 minutes early for a year. You've told our story for a year. You got to, there's some shit I've never even mentioned to you. You got to see this stuff. You got to come look at the wall in my bedroom. Come look at the notebook that I haven't shared with you. It becomes their filmmaking. Once they have that kind of moment, and it happens in every film, if you've done your job right, where the dynamic shifts in a really exciting way, and there's that extra level of investment from the subject. It always happens towards the end, and then the end point is of course something you also shape. I'm always saying election night is very, very useful, but so is Grammy night. Grammy night's pretty good. When else are you going to end, right? So you aim towards those tentpole things. Graduation, the September issue gets published. You're working towards an event. It's a MacGuffin, of course, but the MacGuffin is extremely helpful.
Can we talk about a subject that's sort of essential to why we created this podcast? And you brought this up earlier about, guerrilla filmmaking, any means necessary. You're collecting footage from iPhones, from the record label, from your footage, wherever you can get it, right? You're piecing together a compelling story. This is called Pizza Film School for a reason. We're cheeky bastards, and it's an attempt to take the bloom off the elitism rose a little bit. And you had a film school experience. We had a film school experience. I think we had similar film school experiences, in that we did not finish film school. None of us.
No need. Steve Jobs and Jeff Bezos have addressed the need for you. Mazel tov. They gave you the scholarship to go to film school that you and I didn't have. So,
talk a little bit about that. Talk about like how, say that I live somewhere where I can't gain access to a film school. I don't have the financial means to do it. Whatever it may be. Talk about how someone can make their dream of being a storyteller become a reality using today's technology.
Well, I'm gonna say a couple things. First of all, college is the greatest. Higher education is absolutely critical. A liberal arts education, in my opinion, if you have the opportunity to spend 4 years studying, learning, reading, understanding history, philosophy, literature, art, music, science, please go. Is my counsel to younger people. It will only help your art. It will only help your storytelling more. But I do discourage folks from spending that time in film school, because film school really. And by the way, when you're getting a liberal arts education, you take a couple film classes, study the classics, become literate in film history, if that's what you want to do. But you don't have to do that. I'm just saying I'm not discouraging higher education. I'm encouraging it. But I am discouraging film school as a way to go, because my experience of film school is that you're there for the equipment, which in my day was prohibitive expensive. You get cameras, film processing, editing equipment. Steenbeck is a 2-ton machine. Where you forget it. You couldn't afford that. All of it. So, and you need other people and all of those things. So that's problematic. And now that those things, you have access to all that equipment now. And you also have access to the entire history of cinema, or a lot of it, online. And you can watch films, and you can learn film history, and you can see the work of great masters, and you can see all the look, I got lucky. Channel Public Television in my hometown showed Gimme Shelter when I was in 9th grade. So suddenly I knew who the Maisels were, and I knew what Gimme Shelter was, and I was inspired. That was what I wanted to do with my life. But I had to wait for it to come around. I got lucky. Now you can go on Criterion Channel, and you can whatever are they called, channels? However it is, you can go on Criterion and watch these great movies. You can watch their great documentaries.
RJ, you can go into the Criterion metaverse.
The metaverse. Thank you very much. Thank you. But more importantly, look, this camera is a higher quality machine. This camera is a higher quality machine than anything we shot the War Room on, the September issue, A Perfect Candidate. It's really high quality stuff. In fact, in Billie Eilish, The World's a Little Blurry, you talk about being resourceful and what D.A. Pennebaker used to call having a bank robber's mentality. One of the first things he said to me, if you're going to do this kind of work, you have to have a bank robber's mentality. You got to travel light and always be ready to make a break for it. And it's true. You got to really have a guerrilla filmmaking sensibility. We were not allowed to film backstage at the Grammys. We were only, the Grammys belong to CBS, so they don't let cameras, they don't let a camera crew in, even for Billie Eilish. But you are allowed to be Billie's friend, who has an iPhone. So Jenna Rocher, our DP, was Billie Eilish's friend who had an iPhone, and there she was filming so that when Billie won and Justin Bieber called her on the phone, the climactic emotional moment of the film, Jenna was right there with her iPhone filming it. And that footage is beautiful. You don't look at that footage and think that she's shooting it on compromised equipment. You think she's filming. You're not thinking about her filming. You're in the moment with Billie. You're thinking, Jesus, Justin Bieber called her. This is incredible. So my point is that equipment is now accessible to you. The equipment that film school used to provide for you at great costs is now accessible to you. You have on your laptop editing equipment. If you don't have it, you can buy it. If you want to work with bigger cameras, I mean this. People think that I'm encouraging some sort of scofflaw behavior when I do this, but Amazon is a billion trillion dollar business. Jeff Bezos is flying to Mars. He's so rich. He's right, one of the richest men in the world, in part because he has a return policy on everything he sells. And that means that you can buy a camera from him. You're not doing anything wrong. You can buy a camera from him. You can buy lights. You can buy a synthesizer to score your own movie. You can buy anything you want from Jeff Bezos, return it within 28 days, and he'll send you your money back. He wants you to have his equipment free of charge for 28 days. So if you're, some people don't like that may be too much. Okay, don't do that. Just use your iPhone. But if you're a little steely nerved, and I am, get the damn equipment, use it for 28 days, learn how to use it, send it back to Jeff Bezos. He'll say, thank you, I just made another $1 billion today because my stock went up. And life is good for everybody. You do not need film school to get access to that equipment. What you need to do is go out and make movies. And if your taste is for documentary, even so much the better, as we say. That's right. Because you don't need actors, you don't need lights, you don't need costumes, you don't need sets, you don't need permits, you don't need... Go look at the world, find a story that inspires you, find a person who's doing something where they care a tremendous amount about what they're doing it as well as they possibly can under high stakes circumstances, and go film that person and make a movie about it and follow the puck and see what you discover and put it together and tell a story. And your first film may not be very good, but you will have made it, and then go make another, and soon you'll be pretty good at it because, one of the things, look, you guys are brilliant artists and master storytellers, but I love the way in which you demystify it. I love the way in which you say it's not special. It doesn't just belong. We're good at it, we've worked hard. And I feel the same way, but it's available to everybody who wants to make that commitment and make good stories well told. So, no film school, yes. Higher education, yes. Take Jeff Bezos' equipment for free, and as they say in England, Bob's your uncle.
Yeah. That's amazing. Look at that. Those stories are priceless because that do-it-yourself approach to the process is critical. That was, the whole key to Our Road was really making something out of nothing. And the way, the ingenuity and the tenacity that you bring to the process can create a road where there was none. So your Jeff Bezos idea is a brilliant one.
We used to say things like, look, you need two things to make one of these films. You need money and access. So you tell the money person you have the access, and you tell the access person you have some money, and you hope they don't meet. And eventually you'll get both and you make your movie. You have to be, you got to rely on your wits and be resourceful, and good things will happen.
Two things. One is I want to get into post a little bit because so much of documentary filmmaking is really about post. And I appreciate you saying that, look, there is no magic potion to being a great storyteller. It's hard work, right? It requires a work ethic. And as you say, Anthony and I have said this, look, you want to be a great carpenter, you got to build a lot of tables, You make a bad table, start again. Make another table, make another table. You make 10 tables and pretty soon you're gonna be pretty good. You're good at making tables, you know? Tell stories as much as possible and you'll get good at telling stories. When you're, there's one production question, then we'll shift to post. Do you wire subjects at all? Do you try to be as invisible from a technology standpoint as possible? So when you're collecting sound, how do you do it best?
Well, sound is so critical, especially to verite shooting. You can deliver a scene without picture, but you can't deliver a scene without sound. So we do whatever it takes, and the hardest job on a verite crew is listen, everybody's job is hard, but the sound guy, everybody's always cranky about because he wants to wire you. He's got the boom is obtrusive, I can't tell you how much I value and respect and appreciate to have a sound recordist like J Kim who did Blurry, and who everybody's happy to see in the morning and is just a great guy. That's such a gift to a filmmaker. It makes things so much easier. So you try to, my answer won't surprise you. You just have to be in the moment. If it seems natural and you're not interrupting too much to ask somebody to wear a wire and they're comfortable, you go for it. If they're not, you try to boom the scene. If you're in a situation where you couldn't boom backstage at the Grammys, so you just had to rely on the mic on the iPhone. Guess what? iPhone mic, not so bad. You're always being resourceful. I'm not adhering to any rules of no technology. Sometimes, listen, you can take a look at the War Room. You see James Carville on election night with a mic stuck on his shirt because we just slapped a mic on him and ran, and he was comfortable with it. He didn't care. But we couldn't take the time to wire him and all of those things. But we knew we needed to get the sound. We were shooting dual system then. It was a whole other thing. So we had to get the sound. But that's it. You just do what it takes in the moment to get what you need.
One more production question. Going back with your subjects in your documentaries, you described your process, this observational, reactive process in terms of how you follow the story and find the story. Are there examples of times where you ask something of your subjects? Sort of like directing them towards something. Are there ever moments like that?
No, not for me. I don't even I don't do interviews for just that reason. Sometimes the most I've ever asked of somebody is to sit for an interview, and I'm not happy doing it. As I've gotten better at it, I rely less, I don't need to interview. And to me, interviews are disruptive when I'm watching as an audience. I've said this before, I don't see any interviews in your guys' films. I can't remember a single interview in The Godfather. So if they were able to if Coppola was able to tell a story without interviews, so too should we be, I think. And so the most I ask of somebody is, can we film with you?
You want essential human truths with no or as little influence as possible.
Well, you can't get where you're going otherwise. We go back to the puck metaphor. If you're hitting the puck, you can't get to Gretzkyville, which is where we want to go. We want the puck the puck is life, man.
Yeah. And then from a post process, you're working on something for a year. How are you editing? Do you edit yourself? Do you work with an editor?
I try to hover above. On the Billie Eilish film, we had two editors, two master editors. Neither of them had ever co-edited before, but they were both people I knew very well. One, Greg Fenton and I had worked together for 20 years. And Lindsay Utz and I had been friends, and she was somebody who I admired. I wanted Greg on board just because it was somebody with whom I had worked a lot, and he had great music chops. And with Lindsay again, I wanted a woman's perspective. I wanted a younger filmmaker. She's in her 30s, and is really a master verite editor. The year before, she had won the film she had edited had won the Oscar. Both of them had received the ACE award for Best Editor Documentary of the Year. They're just, they're just masters. Again, the process, you try to be as organic as possible. We began by watching. I identified 100 hours of footage. We had about 1,200 hours, about 1,000 that we had shot ourselves, and about 200 that the family had given us from their, Maggie's stuff and other archival stuff. And from that, about 100 hours was identified. And for a month, they watched those 100 hours. That's all we did was watch footage. All they did was watch footage. And they watched it together. And then at the end of the month, we spent about a week identifying what we thought was the gold in those 100 hours. So first I thought the 100 hours were the best I could think of. Then we identified what was the gold, and they spent about 6 weeks putting that together, raw cut scenes. And we got the first assembly, which was about 23 hours of footage. And we watched it. We watched 23 hours of footage. And then we made the cards. And what do you know? The cards from that 23-hour cut are not a whole lot different than the cards we ended up with in the film that you watched, which is 2 hours and 20 minutes long. And it's an epic film. It's a full meal, but it whizzes by in large part because the structure was very organic, and we found it very quickly. There were certain trouble areas, but we knew pretty much from the beginning what they were going to be. Where do you put the archive? Where do you put the family history? Where do you put the dance history, the physical, her relationship to her body? Where do you introduce that? How do you deal with the ending? The kind of emotional payoff, that scene where she's driving in the car and she's just been nominated for all these Grammys, and she reflects on her life. And after all of this kind of pain and all of these challenges that she's overcome, she's able to say, life is good. That's kind of the emotional launch point towards the end of the film. But forever, it was the beginning of the third, not forever, but we assumed it was going to be the beginning of the third act. And then I watched and I was like, no, man, that's the end of the film. That's like, we're done. I didn't cut the next 4 hours of footage should be a 3-minute montage. And it was, it was like, and it just kind of worked beautifully. So sometimes you're building up. In this case, we were reducing down like when you're cooking, like a sauce, reduce, and you're getting to the essence of it. And that's what we really spent the year doing. We had unique challenges on this project. It was COVID. We weren't in the same room. I had 2 editors, so passing scenes back and forth was very delicate, but had to be done at times. You have to, editing's where I've done my 10,000 hours. So I do really know how to direct editors. I've just had a lot of experience with it. But nobody wants to, it's hard to recognize when you're burning out on something, but it's easier for me to recognize it. So if I can take a scene away from if I need to take the scene and ask the other editor to work on it a little while, that's a delicate thing, but critical to it being handled. You have to learn to listen. In the edit is where your id is all over the place, man. You're having ideas and you want to see it a certain way and you're sure you're right. And that's you in the field, you're like, I'm following the puck. In the edit, you're like a total, you're an asshole. And you've got all your ideas and you're so grateful for an idea and you want to see it. And then it's hard for you to recognize when something you loved in a longer cut isn't so good in a shorter cut, or you have to cut it too. And so you learn to really listen to your editors because they have such wisdom. And it's all like that. It's a dance. Again, watching Get Back is very interesting to me not as much as a documentary, just like seeing the Beatles and the creative process is so interesting because that's what editing is like. Those guys writing, Get Back, writing the song Get Back is like what I feel like when we're in the edit. It's just you're jamming and you're figuring it out, and you're finding it, and you're a mess and you're lost and you think it's shit, and then you try something else, and it's all that, and you're hearing each other. It's very much a beautiful jam.
For the 1,000 hours of footage that you have that you didn't use in the edit, are you able to revisit that in the future?
Oh yeah. I mean, in the future, you mean another film? Or
yeah.
Oh,
perhaps do something with it.
Yeah, maybe. We at a certain point cut, definitely we cut our favorite outtake scenes, thinking maybe they would, somebody would use them. Also, we're always able to go back to we're very well, we've got a story producer. This is a little bit, I'm sure everybody has their own version of it. My innovation in video's amazing. When they shot Gimme Shelter, they probably shot 40 hours of footage. When we shot The War Room, we shot 30 hours of footage. The whole thing, 30 hours of footage. And now we're shooting 1,200 hours because it's all on a video chip. But accessing that material, logging it, watching it, knowing what it is. We have a producer who has a small team that is only watching footage all for a year. He's just watching footage, and he's a big part of our process because he's like the brain. I watch a lot of it, but he watches every frame of it. And when we need to say, there's this amazing scene with Billy and Phineas in the kitchen where they're talking to Maggie about writing a hit song, and they, and Billy's pissed because Phineas didn't like the song that she was working on, and she didn't like his idea. And you describe this to him, and he's like, "Oh yeah, we have that scene where they wrote the song. It's in Maggie's footage. It's from the GoPro. It's amazing." And he goes back and he finds that, and you put those two scenes together. Suddenly you have the drama, you have the antecedent, and you have the results. You have the little fight, which is very nuanced, but it's a fight. And then you have that scene in the kitchen, which becomes so much stronger because you've seen them struggle to write. That's the kind of work that Jonathan Ruane, who is our story producer, does day in, day out. I mean, just brilliant stuff.
This may overlap with what you just talked about, but I think it's a critical piece of information for aspiring documentarians. How do you identify that 100 hours that was the sort of key footage for you?
Yeah, it's such a great question. I tell a story. Here's I said before, it's what I witness plus what I experience. I tell a story. I tell a story. I write it down and I say it out loud. Maybe it takes 40 minutes for me to describe the story I witnessed while I was filming Billie Eilish in this year in her life. And I'm a storyteller, so I describe it. And then those become the scenes. And Jonathan Ruane, our story producer, is helpful in identifying what those 100 hours are going to be. But I start them off. Now, sometimes you start off with those 100 hours and you watch them. Sometimes you don't have 100 hours. Sometimes you wish you had 100 hours. Or sometimes you watch the 100 hours and you're like, well, there are a lot of holes in here. Sometimes it's painful. It's really painful, and you have to figure out how you're going to structure it, how you're going to build it. This one, think of the year in this child's life, it was really quite astounding. So event led to event led to event. And as I say, this one was more about what's the phrase, a something of riches. There were two scenes where she fucked up her ankle really badly. But I fought forever to have both of them in. Forever. What a stupid thing to fight over. But they were both amazing. One of them, she falls down a flight of steps. That's the one that we cut out, because we had the one in Milan. But I didn't like the one in Milan as much because she wasn't falling down a flight of steps. But the one in Milan had more emotion and was better, and she's had to recover and perform. And you know, and it was kind of good that she fell down the steps, but I was wrong, you know, I was wrong. We had this beautiful scene in Radio City Music Hall where she climbs the wall. She climbs the side of the wall at Radio City Music Hall, and Jenna climbs the wall with her. She's 4 stories up in the air filming. And we had this, how can you not include her climbing the wall? Well, who would cut that out of their movie? And the editors were like, you're going to cut it out of the movie because it's boring and it doesn't belong at the end of the second act. We got to get to the rest of the movie, you know? And so but what survives from that scene is the final shot where she's high above everybody, and it's the final shot of the film before at the very, very end. And of course, that's all I really wanted. And
amazing.
RJ, we have a little segment we call Small Bites. We wrap up the show with it. We're going to read you quick questions for quick answers, just to get your perspective on a few areas. Anthony, you want to start?
Sure. RJ, if you could give one piece of advice to yourself in your early career, what would it be?
Oh, it's going to be fine.
It's all going to work out.
Be kind
Yeah.
to yourself.
If you could watch any piece of content for the first time again, what would it be?
Oh, yeah. The first time again, Give Me Shelter, man. In large part because there I was in my best friend in high school's living room. It was a good time. You know, it's high school memories at their very, very best, but it was art at its very best. And there we were like, what are you talking about? You know, it was the greatest.
Awesome. If you could work with anyone, dead or alive, who would that be?
Work with anyone, dead or alive, who would that be? Plato?
Nice.
We'll take it.
That's a lot of people, you guys.
Yeah, it's a lot of people. But a good
That's
choice.
a tough question.
But I got him in there. I just want to hear all his ideas. And I'd do some filming. I'd make a film with that guy in a minute.
That would be a very valuable film.
See my point? You see?
Yes.
These things last over time.
If you could direct any other genre you have yet to, what would it be?
Oh, I'm very at peace right now. You know, I've had the great good fortune to direct around. I love directing for the theater. If I could direct a play or a musical and not, you know, mess up my whole life and my whole world, I'd be thrilled to do it. It's a lot to do, and I got to do it for many years, and I really, really, really loved it.
What do you think is the most important quality of a film director?
I don't want to speak for other directors. The thing I'm most grateful for is my curiosity. I'm turned on by all sorts of subjects and people, and the gift of the filmmaking that I get to do is I get to float into people's lives and into their worlds and see them. It's empathy. It's empathy as much as it's curiosity. I actually, to be honest, it's that you can feel. Listen, the day I met Billie, I said to her, "Look, I identify as a teenage girl, so you're going to be in good hands." And she knew what I meant, and to some degree that's true. But you know, I've been in all sorts of situations where I've been able to, you know, feel the feels with people who have devoted their lives to that thing that they're doing, and that's I'm really grateful that I get to do that.
RJ, we want to thank you for being with us today and for sharing your wisdom with aspiring filmmakers all around the world. And we're looking forward to our next meal together, sir.
Likewise, I can't wait. This was a good meal, and more to come.
All right, everyone, thank you for listening. Mangia bene. We will see you next time here on Pizza Film School.
Oh yeah.